Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. What a beautiful day of Call of Duty. It had it all. The venue, the crowd, the storylines, the viewership, it was all there. And also some early matches as well for us European fans. Great day. Honestly sets up a phenomenal championship Sunday. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Let's crack straight on with things. Firstly, Boston were giving it large a little bit to Veli and he said, okay, think OpTic are going to take you down. Of course, that had been a big result for, of course, the New York subliners, as they're pretty much hoping to get OpTic to make a massive losers run to maybe knock out teams that they need to get knocked out down the line. As it turns out, though, might backfire for New York, who knows, because that losers bracket obviously is absolutely stacked at the present time. First game, though, Boston versus OpTic Texas in the losers round one. Interesting maps, and actually, just because it was a Bacage game, when I was thinking, you know, did OpTic really want to play that up against Vivid and Nero on that map? I thought it was a little bit questionable, and then the other maps as well seemed to be okay for OpTic, but to me it was like, look, could OpTic win the control? If they could win this control, they could win the series. If they couldn't, it might have gone the other way round. But OpTic finally get back into a groove in this series. This was the game one, just of note actually, because you guys maybe mentioned this yesterday or saw this yesterday, that this kind of Prime Gaming logo is now appearing on the map itself as like an overlay in certain sections. I think this is rather cool. It can't, like the QR code is a bit distracting, to be honest. There's a QR code up on this wall here that sometimes appears. If you click on this, it takes you through to like Amazon Prime like website thing for the Call of Duty Vanguards. So anyway, look, it's an association. I thought honestly a pretty cool way to advertise. This is a bit distracting, to be honest, but I think in general the idea is relatively sound. Kind of impressed they've actually managed to pull this off, to be honest, here from the CDL side. And what this does mean, more than likely, is that there's obviously an ongoing relationship right now, which is kind of ramping up by the day between the CDL and Amazon. And of course, Amazon own Twitch, and therefore you might well think that a Twitch still is in the works. I personally hope that it's Twitch plus YouTube next season. We get the best of both worlds, but at full-time Twitch is probably better for CDL growth than full-time YouTube. So I suppose we'll see how it goes. But game one, Boston take the victory right here. It was a close map, honestly. There was barely any points even being scored here. Lots of people would say, look, OpTic, get in the hill, please. They did learn how to do that as time progressed, right? But it must be worth mentioning, actually, even though, you know, the OnlyFans thing, I thought it was kind of funny here, but Shotzi had a stinking game one. He went 20 and 35, I believe. Had a really tough time. Just watching him around the map, it like seemed like he was just taking chows. He just wasn't playing it like Shotzi can play, just channeling everything, not really shooting particularly straight either, jumping around a lot, but not actually delivering the goods in the server. So that I was raising the question at this point, right? Look, Shotzi has been so far this tourney, even in the first series they won against Rokkr, pretty damn questionable in the respawns. They need Shotzi to turn out. When he's on form, can be one of the best players in the game and was the best player in the game for quite some time. They needed him to be at that level and slowly started to turn on the gas as the day progressed, to the point at the end of the day, Shotzi was playing like the Shotzi we know. And when Shotzi's playing like Shotzi, anything really is possible for this OpTic squad. They go down 1-0 though. They bounce back into search and destroy. Pretty impressive the fact that OpTic now are actually clutching them in searches. That was a key weakness for them in previous seasons. It was a real strength for them earlier on this year. And anyway, like you always see that OpTic taking advantage in this search and nearly makes some nice plays as well here to end up closing out this 1-1 against TJ. Just runs away. You know, pretty obvious play, but don't manages, and TJ has no bullets anyway to finish off the kill regardless. Wouldn't have mattered at the end of the day anyway. OpTic take a 5-2 edge and they close that out relatively swiftly as well. So OpTic close out the search and destroy, tied up at 1-1, but this is where control is just so crucial. At the start of this season, OpTic would have won this control with their eyes closed on Tuscan, 3 of them without a worry in the world, and then taken a massive advantage in the series. They do that here on the game 3. It wasn't like incredibly clean like it has been before, but look at Shotzi coming to play, right? This is what you want to see from Shotzi. I mean, I don't know what that spawn was there for Methods or whether he was actually there the whole time, but anyway, he gets the kill, but Shotzi was making plays, and this is kind of what you expect to see from this guy, especially on a map like this, and he was delivering the goods, right? OpTic eventually win an offense. They close out a final defense, I'm pretty sure as well, taking down Boston to win their first control in quite some time, and at this point it did feel like a kind of changed OpTic in a sense, and then eventually they close out the game 4. This was a fantastic game 4 as well, because OpTic probably should have closed this out slightly swifter than they actually ended up doing. Boston break in like in pretty impressive fashion right towards the end of the P1, and a really ballsy play from Scump. I really like this play call actually, because I felt like seeing it was 2-4-7, I really was thinking someone would go for this, and Scump makes the call to do it. So effectively what's happening right here, this is over at P1, and the observers pick up on this, which is rather nice. Effectively, Boston have just broken into this P1 here. There's not quite enough time for Boston to win off it. They'll get to like 2-4-9 if they hold all the remainder of the time. So of course everyone's rotating over towards the P2. All the OpTic guys are here, the Boston guys are going, and realistically the Boston guys can't afford to leave more than one person on the hard points, because if they leave 2 people there, they'll lose the rotation, then they'll lose the 3 points they need for OpTic to win the game. So everyone rotates to P2, but Scump says, look, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to take the 50-50, try and kill the guy in the hard point with a few seconds left, and that should be enough to close out the game. That's exactly what happens here. Scump makes a fantastic play, gets behind, checks all the corners, knows the one corner he must be in, takes TJ down, lays on the floor, and that's enough to get the job done. So yeah, honestly, fantastic fantastic veteran play there from Scump to close out the series. This guy's obviously been electric for years, and it's just so impressive that he continues to play at this type of level. Like, you know, all his peers from when he started competing 12 years ago are nowhere near what Scump's doing right now. So they win that series. Impressive stuff, no doubt. Teammate to grow, says Dashy. GG's Boston play another game later on today. That game would be determined by who lost the next series. And as Rambo said at the time after winning that one, they'll win their next Bakar. So we'll see how this turned out when they play their next series later on in the day. And this is a pretty classic OpTic storyline here, or scoreline, that was actually replicated pretty much in their second series. Dashy like 1.2, Scump, I mean, pretty much like dead even where you expect him to be. And then Illy picking up Shotzi's slack that he left that series that he certainly didn't leave as the day progressed. Let's talk Los Angeles Thieves Ultra. Wow, what a series this was from Los Angeles Thieves. Finally, we get to see Kenny looking like World War II Kenny. I've said it for a very long period of time. Like, Kenny, when he is on form, is one of the best POVs to watch in the entire game. He's out of control. He's so much fun to watch. The way he plays the game, the aggression he has. And look at these shots he hits actually right here on Bance. Look at Bance gets absolutely spot on here by Kenny. Like, people are talking about Bloom, but I just think he missed, and Kenny just absolutely destroyed him. That was such a critical kill to close out this hardpoint, and Kenny went on a rampage as well here towards the end, getting a nice little two-piece to close out the game. And it's not like Kenny slowed down game 2 either. I mean, they come to the search and destroy and just demolish Toronto, right? Toronto are not a team that gets 6-0'd in search and destroy. Los Angeles Thieves do exactly that. So these guys, finally, it's been a long time coming, and I've roasted them a fair bit, right? And I feel like understandably so at times. But finally, they're performing like the caliber of the organization they represent, right? Finally, they're looking like a Los Angeles Thieves team that we've expected to see since they came into the league. Demolishing teams, getting top 3 at tournaments, potentially moving on and doing even better than that. Like, and winning search and destroys in such a dominant fashion. Octane had a great map as well, as did Kenny. A 6-0 in search and destroy. Nation, of course, was watching on and having a good time as well. And then it goes to a final control, and they just demolish this one as well. I mean, it was really the Envoy show in this particular map. There was one kill, actually, that he got on Bance. Completely spot on him. It was outrageous. And Kenny was making plays here towards the final round as well. A 3 in the control, 6-0 in search and destroy. Toronto got absolutely destroyed in this series. You don't see that every day, especially by an LA Thieves team that's been struggling so far this year. Nadeshot says, hello, winners bracket finals. Top 3 guaranteed. Probably their best placing ever, right? Los Angeles Thieves. Outside of, I guess, they made the grand finals at the Pro-Am. And potentially even more to come from this team. So finally, they feel like the confidence is there for these guys, and they're playing spectacular Call of Duty. And Kenny seems to have found his rhythm on that SMG, which really was the critical factor if this team wanted to actually progress to being a championship contender. This is our tourney, says Octane. We'll see how it goes for them, of course. Firing in all cylinders, says Envoy. And then here we go, officially locked into the World Championship, Los Angeles Thieves, after that victory with a relatively decent seed at that. These are the final stats. Envoy with a 1.7, Kenny with a 1.2. When that happens, there's no way you're beating them. And Bance really has a tough time here in this particular series. Does bounce back, though, as the day progresses. Let's talk about the absolute must-win series here for New York. If Florida won this one, it was a Florida going to the World Championship and New York not. Because at this point, only one spot left up for grabs between Florida or the New York Subliners. And look at this walkout. It was absolutely superb, right? As soon as I saw Crim7 walking down the stage, I was like, there's no way this is Crim. Like, this just doesn't quite look like Crim. There was something a little bit off with him. Turns out he gets on the stage, and as they kind of introduce Crim7, then Crim6 comes out through the background. I'll make sure you can just about see this fully on screen, I suppose, right here. Anyway, Crim comes out, and he just kicks him off the stage. I thought the choreography in this was pretty hilarious, to be perfectly honest. Like, it's just fantastic content. The best walkout I've seen, to be honest. Got this guy involved as well. And it seemed like Crim6 harnessed the power of Crim7 here, because he just demolished them this series. Game 1 got close towards the end of it. New York were obviously too good. Paul X had a pretty tough time, but it doesn't matter when Crim6 is going, positive very significantly indeed. New York win the game 1. They take the game 2 as well. Relatively close forward affair, but I mean, I don't know how Major Maniac even brought this round back to a 1 versus 1, but Crim6 was just on fire, to be honest. He knew Maniac was here. He, breaks the kind of a wood pedal thing of it. It really is a classic Call of Duty Vanguard experience you have right here. And Crim6 manages to run away and get the job done anyway against Major Maniac. Nice little kill there from Crim. And yeah, New York advanced 2-0, and at that point, it's job done. So yeah, Mutineers not looking particularly good in this one. And New York Subliners, man, they had the crowd behind them. They knew they had to win this series in an obviously a must-win fashion, and they came out and got the job done. We know that in respawns, Mutineers are not really going to, have what it takes. And obviously at this point, going up 2-0 on a Berlin, where, I mean, yeah, some nice shots here from Skies, but this was not a map that really I expected New York to be able to go up 2-0 on. Once they do, it's absolutely job done, right? The entire team played well, and then it goes to a control, and it's a 3-2 at the end of the day. And it's never chalked, as they say here, breaking points, unless you nade your teammate, as Major Maniac did. A massive 2-piece. I mean, Awakening was on for dropping 50. Like, this guy was dropping so many massive numbers, but the team nade comes through for Major Maniac, right? Hydra gets one as well, and that's going to be it. New York Subliners 3-0 the Florida Mutineers, drop them down to the losers bracket with aplomb, and leave them for Atlanta FaZe in a series that we shall talk about tomorrow, right? And Crim6, I mean, he had some phenomenal interview moments as well during this. I mean, look at this guy right here. This guy, honestly, he runs CDL content, man. He is just so much fun. And obviously, I hope New York make it tomorrow because they have a great chance of doing exactly that, getting all the way to the grand finals. What this means is, right, that if Florida lose to FaZe, I've just seen they're currently down 1-0. So, like, I'm recording this as it is because it's relatively late. So you guys don't know how it works. But let's say FaZe did beat them, then New York just need one series tomorrow to win. Otherwise, they'd probably need to win the entire event, right? But, I mean, yeah, look, New York need one more series against LA Thieves or whoever they play from losers, more than likely, or they just win the entire thing regardless. If they want to qualify for champs, it is certainly on the card at the present time. These are the overall stats. Crim with a 1.32, one of his best series in a long period of time. And, well, of course, when the pressure's on, Crim6 shows up and drops an absolute bomb on the other team. Let's talk the final series we're going to discuss in this video, OpTic versus Toronto Ultra, a matchup to advance to Championship Sunday. OpTic, of course, starting in losers round 1. We said before the tournament that, like, look, they're going to need to get top 6 at minimum. Top 4 would be very nice indeed, because if they can get top 4, they're going to go to the World Championship thinking they can win. If they got anything worse than that, I think the confidence would have been a big struggle for them. And this is like a massive confidence building series against Toronto, because this is the team that they can't beat, right? Especially on LAN. Last year, this year, put them in a LAN situation against Toronto, they're going to lose game 5 almost every single time. Now, Toronto haven't been looking great lately, and they got destroyed by Thieves. So I did think going into this that probably OpTic should be favoured, and they decide to play Bacage again game 1, right? And this is the thing, because Rambo just said in that tweet that we looked at, like, look, they'll win their next Bacage. I didn't think they were going to be honest, right? It goes, like, honestly, this is Vanguard in a nutshell. Another ridiculous finish here. Illy turns on Cammy, but it doesn't matter because they all spawn so close to the hill anyway. Then Shotzzy comes through, gets the 2-piece, and close out the map. So that was incredible. Like, this just goes to show for me, like, when Shotzzy popped that 2-piece, I was like, yeah, okay, Shotzi's back in business, because the last Bacage they played, he got destroyed, 20 and 35. This one, he goes pretty much even, but with massive impact as you expect from Shotzzy. If Shotzi's basically even, like, on a map like this with a load of engagements, like, that is what you're expecting from this guy, right? He's just putting so much pressure on the map, having so much impact, and delivers the clutch kills at the end anyway. Then it goes to a game 2, and this is honestly where, like, I mean, Bance did this twice this series, and this was OpTic again, doing some very questionable things in Search and Destroy. A few rounds here, I'm sure Rambo will be looking at and thinking, look, lads, we could not afford to give away these rounds. I've talked a fair bit about OpTic's clutch factor, their composure the last couple of weeks, and they still are, despite the fact that on LAN with the crowd and, like, the momentum, they've definitely kind of tuned some of those out of their game. They definitely still have a potential to throw away rounds like this. Like this, and there's no way in a million years should Bance have won this one, and neither in the game 5. Bance does win it. I think that was a critical round of the map because it eventually goes 6-4 in Toronto's favour, and they also close out the control. So I was like, there's no way OpTic are winning 2 controls in a day the way it's been looking lately. Cammy was doing some ridiculous things. I mean, yes, Scum, I guess, didn't know he was behind him, and Cammy got some critical kills, and in the end, despite OpTic closing out their first offense, eventually they lose their next, well, they lose their defense, Toronto win their offense, and then they close out the map, right? So at this point, I was thinking, okay, wow, this is a real test for OpTic now, because they had a good advantage in the, potentially in the Search and Destroy if they'd have won the round against Bance. They had potentially a good advantage here in this control as well. Can they clutch up? Like, do they have what it takes to regain, to put themselves back in the right headspace? Because that's what Illy was so good at helping the team do at the start of the season, and they do exactly that for the game 4. Shotzzy turns up, he comes alive, had some crazy moments here on this Tuscan. Like, this was a nice one as well early on right here with the 2-piece. When you see this, you kind of feel like, okay, yeah, Shotzi's back. I mean, the third as well he gets as well, just with the pre-fire, very nicely done, and he was making more plays as the game progressed. But at this point, the score was out of control in favour of OpTic, right? This was never going to go Toronto's way. Toronto do fight back in fairness and try and make this one close, but doesn't happen in the end. Game 5 secured, and a game 5 where it seemed like OpTic were going to have a rather significant advantage. Early on, they move up with a few rounds in their favour, but then again, they throw away a round to Bance. I couldn't believe what I was seeing here, actually, because this is a 1 versus 3. I honestly almost looked away from my screen here. It was a 4v2 for OpTic, or 4-2 in favour of OpTic at this point. A 1v3 for Bance. Like, Illy maybe, like, it's kind of Illy's fault in a way. Dying first obviously isn't great. I mean, like, he tried to get away, he got wallbanged. It was kind of tough scenes, tried to peek. Really, it was probably the rest of the guys that made some interesting decisions here as Bance goes for this clutch in the end. For some reason, they let him get the bomb down here absolutely for free. Bance ends up wrapping behind them. You see the QR code here on the wall. Gets 1 kill, gets Scump off the bomb, and then makes a great play because Dashy really, like, it was a difficult decision for what Dashy should do here, but decides to go for the hop. Bance manages to get the kill, and I was like, wow, there's no way OpTic are getting demoralized like this, right? After being 4-2 up and losing a round like that, they should have definitely 100% won. I was thinking whether this is going to be a kind of COD moment that precede unfortunate events. But in fairness, OpTic, right, they showed some of that Toronto spirit where they can regain, kind of forget about that round. It does get tied up at 4-4 and eventually goes to the round 11, but OpTic close out the round 11 anyway, right? It was some interesting decisions here from Ultra, actually, because Bance, I mean, look at the time he gets here. That's unfortunately, might have got that kill, and I mean, look, baller play from OpTic to go down low there and try and make that happen after they get the first blood. I like the way that OpTic converted on their first blood here in round 11. You don't see OpTic convert many first bloods in round 11s. They did it right here, so definitely it seems like their clutch factor's back with Illy and the team. He's been playing great as well, catalysed the rest of the squad, and in front of the crowd with the momentum, that's when OpTic are an absolute force, right? And here they are again, winning a game Game 5 rally, and that's going to be a massive confidence builder for them, just because they struggled to beat Toronto at the best of times. Doing it right here in a Game 5 round 11 fashion when they needed to clutch up is massive for them, and the fact that Shotzzy showed up and played phenomenally as well. And as Scump says, GG's Toronto, squad iced up, play again tomorrow. So top 12 at the start of the tournament, all the way to top 4, a very impressive run so far. It certainly doesn't get easier for them, but making it to Championship Sunday and getting the Championship wiped out once again is a serious achievement for OpTic based on what they were looking like the last couple of weeks. And I think the viewership was pushing 120,000 for that Game 5. Love to see that. And OpTic putting themselves in prime position to either continue this run tomorrow or at least build massive confidence going into the World Championship. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.